Hi guys, and welcome to another quick review. So today I'm going to talk about the calipers on 1250GS, specifically this BMW/Hayes and upgrade to Brembo, why it makes sense. As you can see, I have a Brembo calipers on my bike, same calipers as installed on the model year 2013 to 2018. And these are Hayes, which originally came with this bike. So, rideability first. So, riding the bike, when I just bought this, I immediately noticed that these calipers do not provide really great braking performance for me, comparing to 2016 GS Adventure, which I had before. So what I noticed is that when you brake, you need to apply much more pressure on the brake lever to get the bike to stop. And I didn't like that at all. When I noticed as well that these calipers are two-piece calipers, you can see these big bolts holding two pieces together. And there are some reports, quite a lot of them actually on the internet, that these calipers are leaking brake fluid. There is an O-ring, so there is a channel, I'm not sure is it at the top or at the bottom of a caliper, but there is a channel connecting these two pieces. So the brake fluid can equalize the pressure in between, and so we would actually, like all four pistons would brake. So around that channel there is an O-ring, and that O-ring is leaking. So on my calipers the tolerances are not great, so you can feel here, like I think on the bottom there is a little gap started to develop. So that's part of a problem. At the same time, these Brembo monoblocks, they made from one piece, so there is no bolts connecting two pieces together, just one piece, and everything is just manufactured as from one piece of aluminum. So this type of a leakage is not even possible, even in theory, on these Brembo brakes. So that's one. Again, taking into consideration that this bike is supposed to be extremely reliable, so you could take it for long distance rides, couple of thousand kilometers, you know, or maybe even more. In any case, that is the first problem, the leakage. Second problem, these calipers are quite heavy. That is not too big of a deal actually, but still, why? Why you get something which is worse than it was before in already several aspects. So that kind of a wooden feel, like a hard pressure on the lever, I think is down to what these calipers have smaller diameter pistons comparing to Brembos. That's probably a part of a problem. That also tells me that these are not extremely good, so I don't see so far through this why BMW would change this, except for maybe these are cheaper, that's it. Now regarding the brake pads, so Brembo manufactures brake pads for Brembo brakes, and so you can easily buy them in any pretty much, you know, motorcycle store. For these ones I'm not sure, so do you need to get them only from BMW, and BMW actually gonna cost extra. Again, you stuck with just one type of or set. I'm not sure, maybe some third-party manufacturers are doing something regarding the brake pads replacement, but again, for Brembo brakes you may have any compound you like. It's a huge selection of compounds for these calipers. Anyway, let's continue. Dirt and mud evacuation. So this bike is ridden off-road from time to time on that set of off-road wheels, and so the mud and dirt and tree branches and whatever else, grass, get in here into the calipers on this side. And as you can see from this side, we are quite closed, so not much space for this dirt to evacuate from this side. Even if you're washing the bike, you cannot, you know, wash these calipers. Well, you can wash them with high pressure water, but it's not much access you get actually to clean up all this mud from this side, only from this side. Does it mean that you need to remove them, unscrew them and then clean them up and wash? That's not really a good idea, I think. Not a good pain in the ass to have. As you can see on the Brembo calipers, there's a huge hole here. So with a high pressure water you can wash all the dirt out from this side, no problem whatsoever. Plus the ventilation is much better, so it's straight through hole, so the air comes in, cools them down and gets out with much less resistance comparing to these calipers. Alright, so I do not see any positive points of these calipers so far. Next, a brake pad replacement. So on the Hayes calipers, BMW/Hayes, you have these two pins. So let's look at this side. So this side is exposed to the user per se, external or outer side. So you need first of all a special head for your wrench to unscrew those, but that's okay, you can get those kind of a star-shaped heads, that's fine. But again, this is just one place I think where you have them, so you need to have that specific shape of a wrench head with you just for this work. If you, let's say, on a long trip and you're planning to change the parts during that trip, but that's not that big of a trouble. Obviously you need to remove the caliper from the bike, so you need to have another wrench which would allow you to do that, and they need to be torqued to 38 Newton meters, so you probably need to have a torque wrench if you're doing again it while on a trip. So you remove those two bolts, then remove this, change the brake pads, when you put those back in, put the caliper back to, screw caliper back to the bike, but with a torque wrench, because you need to do 38 Newton meters specific torque. Again, this is not that easy or pleasant to do, so why should you do that, right? If there are brake calipers which allows you to do that without any specific tools, without removing them from the bike. In any case, here you can see those C-clips at the end of these two rods which you need to remove in order to replace brake calipers. And these are so tiny, and you need to know about their existence, because if you don't, you just start unscrewing these bolts and these C-clips are going to fly away, so you're probably gonna lose them. And if you didn't even notice what they were there before, you may not even know what you need to put them back, right? Again, that's a safety problem. In any case, those C-clips are quite hard to remove without losing, even if you're working in your own garage or in a service. It's not that easy to remove, isn't it? So it's a bad access, so you need to remove the caliper, turn it, you know, and remove those carefully without losing, and put them back in. Again, I think that's a negative point. This type of arrangement you can see on bicycle brakes sometimes, but for adventure motorcycle, well, I have a big concern about this type of a design at all. Like, this is not very good design, not very well thought through. So whoever was designing this didn't really think about many things which actual riders, adventure riders face when we're riding long distances. Okay, so now let's look at the Brembo for brake pad change. So you have this safety pin, you remove that, then you just unscrew this one rod, and again it's a star shaped but a standard key which used in some other places on this BMW motorcycle, so you may want to have that head with you anyway to use it for multiple purposes. Again, you don't need to remove these bolts. The only thing you need to do is to remove this rod, and then you can remove the brake pads from this side, no problem whatsoever. So the change of the brake pads on this specific arrangement is much easier. Okay? So far, through all of this discussion, I do not see any deficiencies of these brakes, except for maybe the price, actually. So I think the only, well, to me, the only reason I see why BMW would go for something like this is the price. because these brakes, to all the whatever, I try to understand why, but I just cannot. I just can't understand why BMW did it, except for just one reason: the price. Because in all the aspects, these Brembo monoblocks, which we used to have for model year 2013 to 2018, are actually better. All right. So that's the thing. So, bad feel on the lever, so too much pressure required to stop the bike. That's one. Second one, they leaking. The third one, they heavy. The fourth, the mud evacuation and cleaning of the calipers is, of internals of the caliper, not internals of the caliper itself, but parts and that kind of area over here from mud and dirt is much harder on these calipers. That's 4, right? So number 5, the brake pad change, which again due to these C-clips and the weird requirement for additional head for range, plus removal is required from the bike. It's all these negative points. So that's why I highly recommend you to upgrade to Brembo. You can find this on, I don't know, scrap yards, on eBay, quite cheap. Obviously, if you're aiming for a new set, that will be extremely expensive. But as I said, on eBay, it's plenty of them available. I even managed to find on the local scrap yard the same color as I had here from a factory, a golden color. And these are not only for GS, these are actually present even now on some BMW motorcycles. You just need to check and see, which ones are. I don't, have a list, unfortunately, but yeah, you know how they look. Just check on eBay or local scrap yards, and you will find them for like less than 200 euros for a pair with brake pads. However, if you're buying the second-hand calipers with the pads, sometimes the pads are contaminated by the brake fluid because of incorrect removal, which is done at the scrap yard. So if you see that, the braking performance will be very, very bad. So it's actually a good idea in any case to buy a new set of pads when you're replacing those BMW calipers to Brembos. Just get yourself a new set for these Brembo calipers of brake pads and you will be fine. Okay, so now important thing, when you replace the calipers, you don't need to remove the brake fluid, right? So you need to just do it quickly. Get this caliper ready, maybe your friend holding it in his hand. Then you just quickly, without removal of this cover over here, right? You don't need to remove this. So what you do, you just unscrew this bolt. You need to remove it quickly together with washers, and just put it on the new on a Brembo caliper and screw it back in. That's it. You're not gonna lose much of brake fluid through that process, just a little bit. And when doing that again, don't keep your brake pads at that moment. After that, just wash everything with water and put the brake pads in back, and you will be fine. And the same for the other side. So you don't need to actually release the brake fluid from the system. If you do, then you will have many more problems with pumping the brakes. You will need to pump the ABS, and for that you need an ICOM connection, or that will need to be done at this dealership if you don't. Okay? That is very important. Another thing is, even after that, so when you put everything back in, make sure you top up, when you remove this cover, you top up the reservoir with a brake fluid and just start pumping like a normal way, like with any car or motorcycle. You just operate the brake, hold it, release the pressure, through this valve over here, put it back in again, start pumping. So anytime, the brake lever should not be released if this screw or valve which you used to pump through so you do not release a brake lever before you tighten this. So you tighten this first, then release, pump again, and so on and so forth. Also set your brake lever at the farthest position. Is it position number 4, I guess. So you will have more fluid with each pump. Monitor this reservoir. Do not let it to dry out. So always top it up. Because if it dries out, if air will get here, you will be in trouble again. So don't let that happen. Okay, so slowly but surely, and if you have a friend to help you, it's even easier. I did this by myself, but I had a lot of experience with this before, so I had no problems. When you've done that, when you do not see any air coming out on both sides through this valve, you may think you got rid of all the air, but it's not true yet. So the second step, you need to have a tool like this. So this tool specifically is installed inside the brake caliper in here. Of course, the brake pad needs to be removed. So it gets installed there, and then you just, by screwing this, see the gap is increasing. So these tools allow you to push the brake pistons into the brake calipers all the way. And before doing that, of course, what you need to do, so you install that tool, you need to, from this side, you can do it on these calipers from this side, but it's better to actually, well, I think still better to remove the caliper from the bike, but you can do it from this side as well, not too big of a deal. So when you install a tool, before pushing the pistons in, what you need to do as well is not to allow air to go back into the system. You need to press this lever all the way and use a zip tie or something to hold it there. So that would not allow brake fluid to come back, well, the air to come back into the system. So you do that, and then just loosen this valve which you use to pump the brakes just a little bit, and then start using that tool to push the brake pistons into the caliper, and you will see some more air coming through this brake pumping valve. Of course, you need to use a hose, you know, some silicone hose or something, and some canister to collect that brake fluid, that's for sure. But you probably know the procedure if you're watching this. It's not that, I mean, it's not for the novice to do anyway. So you will see some more air coming in, and that is because when you push those pistons all the way in, it gets rid of all the air trapped in the channels inside this brake caliper, between the pistons and the actual holes where the pistons going back and forth. So that will help. And then you may think that, oh, okay, when obviously you tighten this up, you remove the tool, you push the brakes to, install the caliper, install the parts, put the caliper back in, and again use a normal pumping procedure to get rid of even a little bit more air. And you may think at that point what you're done, but you're not really done. Unfortunately, what BMW decided to do, even with the Brembo calipers, you can see the valve which you used to pump the brakes through, it's in the same place where the brake fluid actually goes into the caliper. In reality, what Brembo initially had in mind is that the pumping valve is here on the internal side, but BMW just plugged it with plugs, and that's it, and they decided that is good. So I'm not sure why they used this arrangement. Maybe in some cases when you have special equipment which can create a vacuum in all this system, this would work. But if you're doing it in a garage without that vacuum, it's not that easy. So I would highly recommend to install those pumping valves into the inside of a caliper as well. You can see those. They look the same as these ones, but as well in the BMW, interesting, another thing is the same in the case as well. So if you look into this hole here, where the valve is located, and then this hole here, you can clearly see what one is much smaller diameter than another. Right? So a valve on the right side of a bike is actually bigger than the valve on the left side on the bike. So those right side valves do fit into those internal, like inner holes. So you unscrew the plugs and you put these valves in as well without releasing any. Well, some air, some brake fluid will leak. Just use a cloth or something around it. And so change the plugs to this, and then pump the brakes through those as well. So you'll pump every caliper through this bleeding screw and through that bleeding screw as well. And that's it. And then you'll be done. Because as much as I try to get rid of all the air through this bleeding screw, I couldn't get it all out. So as soon as I installed those, then I managed to get rid of all the air. And I could feel that on the brake lever as well. So now our brakes are just perfect. They are as good as I had on my new 2016 Adventure. Just as good as that. And it's definitely much better than the Hayes. Okay, so read about the bleeding procedures before doing that as well if you've never done it before. But I guess like a person with some experience in this can do this work. Just remember a few things. Don't let the top reservoir to dry out, whatever you do. You don't need to remove all the brake fluid when you're just pumping the brake, so when you're replacing the brake calipers, right? Just do it quickly. And those additional bleeding screws on these Brembo calipers do help to get rid of all the air. And you need to use either BMW special tool like this for the calipers to push the pistons in through the bleeding procedure, or you need to figure out something else on how to push them in all the way. This is a BMW special tool, so you can buy those too. Okay. So yeah, I guess that pretty much concludes this. So I don't like this brake calipers at all. Yeah, I do not see anyhow, as I said before, I do not see any reason for BMW to replace the Brembo monoblocks with these calipers, except for just the price, because these are in all aspects, they are worse than those Brembo calipers. And these Brembo calipers are much better. They proved that they work really well, and as I said, it's just ridiculous. In any case, that's it. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope the information was helpful. If you have more questions, ask me in the comments. But I think, well, this is just complete, I don't know, truth. Even though some may say, oh, well, fine. If you're happy with what you have, go ahead. I'm just trying to warn you that you may have some malfunctions and problems with them in the future. And there is an easy solution which helps you in many aspects, which I try to list in this video. Alright, so thank you very much and bye.